Hey everyone, it is John C Morley here, serial entrepreneur. It is so great to be with you guys today. Actually, just stroking before midnight here on April 11, 2024. Welcome everyone, whether you're here at 11:52 p.m., 11:52 a.m., 3 a.m., 3 p.m., or maybe even 6 a.m. or 6 p.m. Doesn't matter. Thank you so much for being here. Do check out my hat. It says "Believe Me Achieve.com" for more of your great, amazing content that I produce that will motivate and change your life for the better. All right, guys. So let's get into the topic. First of all, you know what the weekly topic is. Life is like life, which we've been talking about. Life is like what? Life is like film. All right, that's the master topic, which is from Saturday rolls a week through Friday. And so the granular topic for tonight is real life wisdom, right? Real, no pun intended, like real from reels of film. Unveiling the art of living. Series 3, which means we're in the third year, show 15. And we are, ladies and gentlemen, on episode number 6. All right, let's just dive right in. I think it's probably the best way to go. So, understanding the secrets of capturing good pictures. So, the question is, what are the ingredients of making a good photo picture? What are the ingredients? So, or I should say, what is needed to take the best picture? So, to take great photos, you need to create the right amount of distance between yourself and the subject. You need to focus on textures, right? Focusing on textures is really fundamental with photography. Understanding the instances of them, and you can create interesting images by doing the opposite. For example, taking photos in a foggy condition might make your photo look softer and dreamier. Use color theory, which is a complex but method that allows you to really elevate your work. And it refers to which colors work best with one another. For example, green and red often complement each other quite well. Understand the story you're trying to tell. Whether we're using a pen, whether we're using a computer, it doesn't matter what we're using, a camera, or video camera. We're just telling a story. That's what we're doing. We're telling a story. And we're just using a different vehicle to tell that story. So I think that's pretty cool. So thinking about storytelling, right? And thinking about mastering a piece, then narrowing down your subject, maybe considering what you want to include in the photos, because there might be so much out there that it's going to really throw you off. And be patient. You're not going to become an expert overnight. Most photos will tell the story of a split second time. And others, such as long exposure shots, are a little more drawn out. But because taking your pictures relatively fast, it's easy to forget the importance of being patient. You could travel millions of miles. You could go to Europe, you could go around the continent of the United States. And that photo that you took has the ability to transform you back. I remember going to Zermatt, Switzerland, and waking up in one of the hotels overlooking the Matterhorn. That's an amazing experience. And to get a photo of that and to look at that photo now just really transports me back to what that felt like. Work with your environment. Look at the best photographers out there, and you'll notice that they make the most of their environments. You can complain about people getting in the way of your shot, for example, but a much better option is to try and make them a valuable part of the image. The only way to change your environment in photography is to go elsewhere physically. But since that's not always possible, just work with what you got. And I think you're going to find that you're going to have a pretty amazing photo. Just embrace that. Okay, everyone? Use the rule of thirds. If you watch videos about how to take good pictures from your favorite photography, YouTubers, etc., you'll notice that many of them speak about comparison and the composition. And more specifically, a lot of photographers will mention the rule of thirds. The thirds is exactly what it sounds like. You divide your picture into 3 sections. Each area works to support the other, and choosing to structure your photos as such will make it much easier to determine what you should include in your shot. You can try other forms of composition as you become more experienced, but For the early bird people and those phases, stick with something simple, and you'll find it'll work well for you. Understand your device's limitations. Some camera gear doesn't seem to have what maybe you need. The reality is that not all cameras have weaknesses, regardless of whether you're taking photos on a smartphone or a mirrorless device. Know your device, know what it can do and what it can't do. Taking great photos is a lot of fun. And you know what? It's easier than you think. So don't get, hustled by things like, what f-stop should I set my camera to? And film speed, right? Well, f-stops, okay, just to touch that. I don't want to get too deep in that. F-stops basically from like a 1.4 to like a 4.0. The f-stop chart. So if you went to like an f-stop 11, that would let in the least amount of light. If you went to an 1.4, that would let in the most light. So, maybe you're outside. There's a lot of light. And so an f1.6 would probably be fine for you. An f1.4 will actually be one that lets in a lot of light. So maybe there's a cloudy day or something, you need more light. And so you need that. So f-stops referred to as f numbers refer to how open or closed the opening in your lens is. Remember that when we get higher, like f1.6, it's going to let less light in. When we get lower, like f1.4, you're going to let more light in. So that's really important to understand that. And the shallow depth of field blurs everything but the point you focus on. So that's important. The shallow depth of field will basically blur everything but what you put in focus. So that's important. And so we talk about things like the aperture, okay? You can go to a chart. The aperture is literally the physical diameter of the opening in your lens. And the aperture is controlled by the f-stop. So a 1.4 would have a very wide aperture, and f1.6 would have a very small aperture, okay? It'd be very, 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 very tiny. So lots to know about that. And typically you go from basically f1.4 to like an f8, okay? And so the important thing is that if you're using a 50 millimeter lens and the aperture is set at f2, that would be a 25 millimeter hole. The same lens f4 would be 12 millimeter and so on, okay? So let me say that again. So if you're using 50 millimeter lens and the aperture set at f2, it would be a 25 millimeter hole. In the same lens, an f4 would be 12.5 millimeters. Okay. So again, the lower the number, the larger the aperture, right? Not really hard. Pretty simple. Moving up a stop means that you're doubling the amount of light entering your camera. Moving down a stop is having the light that enters the camera. So up means that you're doubling the light. Moving down means you're having the light. So again, just to give you guys some ideas about this. And so light is a very important factor that affects photography. We're going to talk about more factors down the road, but I wanted to get you guys to understand that, we have to make sure we have the right aperture set. We'll talk more about film speed tomorrow because I want to spend a lot of time on film speed. There's a lot more I want to go over with that. And so now we have cameras that are digital. So they use sensors and they don't use film anymore. And so the sensors basically predicate, with ons and offs, zeros and ones, what has light, what doesn't. Pretty cool, right? So let's jump into the next thing, which is how the quality of our lives mirrors the development process of film. It's all about how we cultivate and nurture it. If we have the f-stop, like we said, very, very low, like in this situation that I just explained to you, like an f1.4, it'll have a very high aperture. And a high f-stop will have a low aperture. So low film stop, high aperture. They work in opposites. So the quality of our lives mirrors the development process of film. So, what do I mean by this? So, the film developing is what's responsible for dictating the quality of the image that we're able to produce. In our lives, it's a little different. How different is it? It's different. And I say this to you so that you get an understanding of it. The quality of our lives is determined by our attitude, our promises, and we make the commitment to see them through. Okay? So, the truth that our attitude, our promises, and commitment shape the canvas of our existence. We've said before that our attitude will dictate our altitude, which is how high we go, the level of success. Our promises that we make to ourselves based on that attitude are directly affected. And from the attitude, we want to set the promises and we want to keep the commitment so that we can create what we want on our canvas of life. Now, that might sound like a lot, but our attitude really, ladies and gentlemen, makes a difference in our life. It makes a huge difference. And if it makes such a huge difference, then I think we should understand it. It makes us successful by the factors that I just talked about. One of the factors that I shared with you is, again, quality of our life. Here's a formula, is just equal to the attitude plus the promises plus the commitment to see it through. I know so many people that want to achieve their dreams, but they get derailed. You know, if you've ever been on a train before, or maybe you played with one of those electric trains, and sometimes if we run the train too fast, I know this has happened to me, you run the train too fast, it would actually derail and go off the track. And when that happens, people feel like there's no way to set themselves straight again, to get back on the track. Well, when it happens, the first thing you have to do is you have to turn everything off. You have to take the locomotive or the engine or whatever part, kind of got out of whack. And so usually in my case, since the engine was the heaviest and the biggest, that would always derail first. And everything else kind of was like lighter. And so you had to take the train back and you had to look at where the grooves were, and you had to put that back onto the track so it could connect. And so you can always put your train back on the track, no matter how far it's been derailed. It's more work to put your train back on the track. Now, you might be asking, John, why do I want to put my train back on the track? I think the real reason you want to do it is because you know that you have potential in your life. You know that you have potential in your life. And if you have potential in your life, then I feel that life will be pretty amazing for you. Now, that can drive some people crazy because they're like, hey, how does this work? How does this work? And I think we all know that we have potential, right? We know that we have potential. And if we have potential, then I think everything's got lots of potential. But we have to first believe in it ourselves. We have to believe in it ourselves. If we don't believe in something ourselves, then how is it ever going to work? How are we ever going to get anywhere in life? I think the question to that is our belief, how we propel forward. What happens when our train gets off the track? Do we cry about it? Say, oh my gosh, my train got off the track. I can never get it back on. Well, with that attitude, you're never going to get it back on. And you see, people around us a lot of times are not always supportive to help us get our trains back on our track. They're only wanting to help us once our train is back on our track by ourselves. It's like they don't want to be bothered. So I want you to understand that you got to get your train back on your track. If it derails a little bit, get it back on. If it derails even more, get it back on. If it really comes off the track, might take more work, but I guarantee you, you can get the train on the track. When it just crashed like a small little bit, I could just take it off, put it back on. I'd be done like within a minute. If it was running a little faster and 3 or 4 cars got knocked down, well, then it maybe took me 10 or 15 minutes because now I not only had to reposition the engine, how to reconnect things, and I fixed 3 or 4 trains. Now, when it was really bad and I had like eight cars, well, then everything got off the track. I was like, oh, I have to just build everything one by one by one by one. And that seems really challenging. So I think in life, when we have challenges, we shy away from them because you know why? They're uncomfortable. I said this before, you have to practice getting comfortable being uncomfortable. That's a pretty amazing thing, right? Practice getting comfortable being uncomfortable. Practice getting comfortable being uncomfortable. Practice getting comfortable being uncomfortable. And when you do this, you will build a stamina, you will build a resilience that even if your train got knocked off your track, oh, that's no big deal. I know how to fix it. I can put it back on the track. So when your life goes off track, how long do you let it derail for? Do you wait till there's like a major emergency till you try to get it back on the track? Or do you start getting it back on the track immediately? When I know I'm off my path, I want to fix that immediately, ladies and gentlemen. Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? I'm John C Morley, serial entrepreneur. It's been a privilege, been a pleasure, been an honor to be with you this fantastic evening. I hope you'll like, love, support the channel. Comment below, tag your friends, colleagues, and associates, share it out with them you know. Go to believemeachieve.com for all your amazing, inspiring creations that I create. And definitely, please do follow and like TikTok so we can stream more there. And I'll catch you guys real soon. All right, everyone? I hope you have a great night. And of course, you enjoy the rest of the morning.